Hi, we're back. We're going to do a little section on a part of love that people will call often falling in love or crushing. We're designed for love, so crushing and infatuation feels amazing. Now, not everyone experiences infatuation. I've met people who've never experienced this mind blowing, heart pumping, breath stopping. People describe it like chills going from head to toe, tingles behind their knees. I mean, just crazy ways they'll explain it. Infatuation is this feeling like you're falling, like the breath's knocked out of you and you are a bit gaga, and it's a massive dose of attraction that not everyone has experienced. In fact, some of the best marriages that I've met over the years are ones who've said, you know what, we actually were friends first. We were friends for a long period of time and turned into affection and then attraction. And so that just grew with the basis of friendship, which is fantastic. But that whole love at first sight thing is a real thing. And research would suggest that men tend to fall in love at first sight more often than women will. So let's kind of delve into a little bit of this infatuation brain state. It's a documented brain state. And I don't know how they get people to go inside these brain scans to see what's happening in real time, but I guess this is a thing. And they were able to discover that both men and women experience something very different. The reactions are similar, but women experience a heightened part of their brains, the instinct, attention, and memory circuits, among other parts, will get a shot up, and guys will experience a higher level of visual processing. So able to throw away those glasses. Just joking. But they're able to see things and register things in a way that they're able to describe decades later. One man stopped me after a class and said, yeah, I remember exactly 40 years ago what my wife was wearing when I first met her. I remember what her hairdo. I remember the color of the bow in her hair. He goes, that love at first sight thing is a real thing. She just knocked me off my seat. And I've never regained consciousness since. It's pretty funny. 12 parts of a brain experience an intoxicating chemical cocktail. It's like a waterfall. It's like a chemical waterfall when a person falls in love. This download occurs within a fifth of a second. So it's so fast that you do feel like you've been hit by a train. Now, while you experience an increase in parts of your brain, both men and women experience reduced activity in their critical thinking and worry centers. Have you ever been around somebody who's infatuated, who's crushing on another person? They're so irritating. They talk about that other person nonstop. And if they're not talking about them, you can tell they're thinking about them. And the way they talk about them and think about them makes it sound like all of the obstacles can easily be overcome. And it doesn't matter if they're on, the other side of the world, right? Or they're somebody who you don't think is a good fit at all. That person is not going to be moved. In fact, if you try to talk somebody out of a relationship, a romantic relationship, when they're in the infatuation state, there's a really good chance they're just going to dismiss you and maybe even cut you off because they may see you as being jealous or not being understanding. And they'll make excuses. People, when they're in an infatuated state, they'll make excuses for bad behavior sometimes. In fact, I get asked that a lot. Why do I see people who are together who treat each other like garbage? Like, I don't get it. And it could be a combination of they've trained their brain for eros. Like, they're used to being used and using others. And so this is just normal. Anyone else is just making stuff up. It could be that they're connected and it hurts to disconnect, so they don't want to go through the discomfort of disconnection. Haven't we ever been in a friendship or a relationship where we're having a hard time separating from that because it just looks too expensive on the other side? So that's another aspect of it. Or it could be infatuation. And they're in a place where they just don't see it. They're like that love is blind moment. And then, of course, there's bonding hormones that we'll talk about next. But the infatuation is a real thing. And so when you see somebody who's infatuated, it's probably not the best time to explain what I'm sharing with you. But when somebody's not infatuated, they're able to receive this information and consider it, as long as they're not afraid of it. Now, infatuation, what I mean by that is it's like, oh no, I'm infatuated, I won't be able to see that person. Well, it all depends on what you do during that time. Because sometimes people make big decisions, life-altering decisions within the span of their infatuation, because infatuation doesn't last forever. And I've had people say, oh, I've infatuated with my wife for decades. Yep. You know what? You see her more realistically than you did initially. And that doesn't mean you can't still love somebody and be attracted to them after infatuation wears off, but you do see them more clearly. How long can infatuation last? Well, it doesn't have to last very long. It could last just moments. You could see somebody and be like, whoa, my heart just fell out. My mouth is dry. They're sitting beside me. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I mean, it's just like, oh, it's crazy and overpowering. And then they turn to you and they have bad breath and say something really rude, and suddenly, it's over. So it can be minutes. And it can be up to, according to neuroscientists, brain scientists, 8 months. So that's a long time. And during those 8 months, if somebody's making a big decision like engagement, marriage, living together, moving in together, owning a business together, sharing a bank account, if they decide to be physically intimate together, they're making a decision not based on a full brain, right? This has come home to me so many times. But my most favorite story that I tell would be when I was explaining to my mom, actually. We were at a coffee shop here in town, and she said, teach me something, anything. I said, well, how about infatuation? So I shared a little bit with her. And towards the end of my coffee, she said, you know what? I know you want to go, but I just want you to know the whole time that we were talking, there was a whole table behind you listening in. And this happens every once in a while, and I'm thinking, okay, I was not talking that loudly. And she said, I know, but they were shushing each other and they were listening. Okay, well, my coffee's done. It was time to go. I got up, getting ready to exit, and all of a sudden from behind, I hear this voice, excuse me, young lady. That tells you how old these gentlemen were. Excuse me, young lady, could you explain what you were just explaining to that lady? And so I turned around and started over again, because they said only some of them hurt only parts of it, but they were very interested. And as I was explaining infatuation, I noticed that 2 of the gentlemen looked increasingly upset. In fact, they were glaring at me, and I finally couldn't handle it any longer and said, okay, I don't know what's going on here, but you gentlemen seem very irritated. What's going on? Where were you 2 years ago? Okay. What happened 2 years ago? 2 years ago, we were both widowed, and we didn't want to be alone. We wanted to be married. So we thought, you know what? We're not getting any younger, and we're a whole lot smarter than we used to be. So we went out, found ourselves each a lovely lady, got married within 6 months. And now, one of the guys pipes up in the circle. Now they don't even want to go home. All they want to do is golf and drink coffee with us. They don't even like their wives. And I was like, oh man, that really stinks. I mean, it doesn't mean they can't work on their marriage or anything, but they had never heard about the power of infatuation. And so they just thought this feeling that this person's perfect was going to go on forever, not understanding that they were in a brain altered state when they made the decision. All the series of decisions, even though people around them might have thought, hey, slow down, it's a little fast. They just thought, they don't understand. This is amazing. So infatuation can be so helpful, nothing to be afraid of, but just to be aware of that when you're making decisions, that if you're in this state, your brain's not fully turned on. See you next time.